Hi, I'm Amy and welcome to my channel. I help women in their 30s heal their attachment style so that they can feel secure and fulfilled in their relationships. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the on again, off again dynamic within relationships. So if you find that your relationship follows this pattern, I'm going to give you a reason why that might be and steps to take to move the relationship past that dynamic. So stay tuned to the end of the video. I will give you all my hints and tips on what to do if this is you. But just as a side note, I do have an offer on my website at the moment. If you subscribe to my website, you will receive a free course on how to move on from a relationship fast. So other than that, let's dive in. So we all know somebody who is in this dynamic. We all know somebody who's got back together with an ex-partner. And this dynamic's really, really common. And a lot of the reason what this is down to with the on-off, push-pull dynamic in relationships is due to a difference in attachment style. I'm just going to give you a real life example from my life just so that you can see how this might play out in a relationship. So when I first got together with my partner, I was anxious, preoccupied, leaning towards fearful, avoidant, and he was fearful, avoidant, leaning heavily towards dismissive, avoidant. So you can probably tell from that description that our needs were different and our priorities were different. So when I go back to the beginning of our relationship, I can clearly see now that my priorities were proximity and affection, whereas his were autonomy and freedom. And this did not gel well between us. I had also been through a divorce, which had changed my attachment style, so I leaned more towards AP. So what would happen is, if we didn't speak to each other for a day or two, or he would go away with his friends, I would experience this low-level anxiety, which would increase and increase and increase. And then what would happen is my subconscious would take over and I would have the need for communication, for affection, for attention met in any way possible. Didn't matter if it was healthy or unhealthy, and what that caused was a monumental amount of arguments. So we would make up, break up all the time, and we were just stuck on this really painful roller coaster of really dopamine highs and really crashing lows. And it wasn't until I'd done some introspection and some work on my attachment style and I'd healed my attachment style that I could clearly see how this happened so that I could stop it. So this fear that I was experiencing, although on the outside it looked like it was no big deal, and it wasn't a big deal, we just hadn't spoken for a day or two, but internally I was telling myself a story about how he was going to leave me, how everything was a sign that he was going to abandon me, and I acted from it and caused a lot of conflict. But what this did in turn for him was make him push me further away so that he could get his need for autonomy met. So how did I solve this, and how do you go about solving this if this is you? So the underlying fear for me was the fear of abandonment, and this was a result of feeling emotionally neglected as a child and going through a divorce where I'd been left by my husband. So it's understandable now why I would have acted like I acted. I did not think at the time that I was overreacting, but now I feel secure and I feel confident in myself. I can see how it wasn't leading me towards what I wanted. It was just getting an instant need met. Once I'd managed to resolve this fear and I started to trust him a lot more, I began to understand that what he was doing was not the same as what happened to me in childhood or what happened to me in divorce. It just wasn't the same. And I started seeing myself as worthy, and I started seeing him as somebody who was worthy of my trust. And he'd never actually broken my trust. He'd never actually done anything that would make me think otherwise. It was just the lens that I was seeing the world through, that people are going to abandon me. So I really had to go deep and really heal the attachment wound that I had as a result of abandonment, which wasn't easy and it didn't happen overnight. But once I had done that and I had healed it, the results were exactly what I wanted. I felt calm and secure. Even when he wasn't in my immediate vicinity, and even when we weren't talking to each other, I still felt secure. I still knew that I was in a secure relationship, and the anxiety reduced and it wasn't there. I became more comfortable giving space in the relationship. So I became more comfortable in meeting his needs as well as my own. And what this did in turn was greatly reduce the amount of conflict that we were having. So these arguments wouldn't happen anymore. And I was perfectly capable of giving space within the relationship. You know, I didn't care if he didn't text me, and I didn't care that he'd gone on holiday with his friends. In fact, I hardly noticed if he didn't text me, and when he was going on holiday I'd think, oh great, it's time for me. So this is like night and day from what I used to be. It was this abandonment wound that was really the driving force behind that behaviour. And that fear is what was really sabotaging my relationship, because I'm pretty certain we would have got further in a much shorter amount of time if I had gone within and healed that attachment wound. So if you find yourself, if your partner is asking for space and you're finding yourself feeling really, really anxious about that, or causing drama and overreacting, that's something to look at, because it doesn't need to be that way. You can feel secure and calm and relaxed in a relationship, and even though you might have a history of being abandoned in some way, emotionally or physically, that does not mean it's going to happen again. Because what the subconscious mind is really, really good at doing is pasting what happened in the past onto what's happening in the present moment. So when these things were happening, I'd have exactly the same reaction as I had when my husband had left, when it was absolutely nothing to do with it. It was completely irrelevant. They're two different people. I'm a different person. And just because he hasn't texted me, that doesn't mean he's going to leave me. It doesn't mean that I'm not in a relationship with him anymore. It's just that we haven't had contact today. That's it. And if you've got quite an active mind like I have, I mean, I would really, really focus on it as well. Another great tip is to look at what needs you want to get met through your person. So is it a need for proximity? Is it a need for love and affection? And try to fill that space up with something else. And I'm not saying you're ever going to fill it all the way, but if you can at least try and get that filled in some way, you will find that the neediness and the desperation that you feel will greatly reduce. So I hope that's helpful. If you did, please give it a like, and please consider subscribing to my channel so that other people can see the hints and tips, so that other people can see the content and hopefully help them out as well. But I will see you in the next video.